This is the only reason you guilt trip your loved ones. So I have a notebook right here to get me to jot down some notes that I'm going to tell in this video. So yes, firstly, I did cut my hair, and yes, it's raining at the back. If you see my profile, my hair is long, and then the last video my hair was short, but now my hair is buzzed. Spoilers alert, I just broke up with my girlfriend, and so I'm gonna make a lot of videos about, you know, how to get through the breakup, what are the things that I did wrong, the mistakes, and how can we drive that breakup in order for us to become the man that we're supposed to be. Besides the point, it's raining, it's dark, yes, but I'm still making this video for you anyway. So this is the only reason why you actually guilt trip your loved ones, your girl, and any other people. And number one is that you have this transactional mindset. Now, a lot of young men these days that are in a relationship, or maybe even older men that are in a relationship, they tend to have this transactional mindset, which means that what I give to you, you need to give me back the same thing. What value? I mean, from the word transactional itself, when you think of something transactional, you think of you're purchasing something to do with transactions from the word transactional. That means that when you purchase something, you will get something in return, or when you give value to someone, you will get the same value back. That's the trap, right? You don't necessarily always have to give the energy and receive the same energy back. Let's say with your partner, with your wife, or your girl, right? You want to be happy, you want excitement, you want to be jolly that day, but then your girl actually is breaking down. But then, even though you want to try to accept that your girl is breaking down and that you don't want to gain the same energy, you still have something in your mind, this inner turmoil to like, should I say, just, mention to like, because as a man, right? Before you know about the wound, before you know yourself, you sort of think to yourself to like not let your emotions out, especially to hurt other people. You want to keep your emotions in, and you will also put the same thing to your girl if you don't learn that you are wounded yourself. You will tell your girl to not be emotional, right? That's also sort of like the cause of what will happen if you want to have, or if you want to get the same energy back to you. That is the transactional mindset. Something like this, your body will ask like, if I give something to you, you have to give something to me back. If I give X, you have to give Y, the same value or even higher. Now this is also affected by what I call my second point, which is the father wound. Now this is what I talk about in my YouTube channel, about the father wound, about how we're affected by it and how does it come out in our day-to-day lives. The father wound is formed during childhood or during adolescence, when the father fails to be a masculine figure in your life. That's one. Or your father might abandon you. That's two. Or your father might be emotionally absent. Or your father might be there, but he's not present, right? He's absent in your life. He doesn't engage with the things you do. He doesn't speak identity to you. He doesn't contribute to your life, to your friend's life, to your social life. Or, just like me, your father passed away at a very young age. My father passed away 2 years ago, or 1 to 2 years ago when I was 16. Now I'm 17. Next year I'm 18. But then it destroys something in us. It destroys identity in us young men. And if I link it back to having a transactional mindset, this creates the symptoms in us. Like, let's say we have a father wound, right? We might turn into a nice guy. And what I mean by nice guys are like a person that's passive, a person that doesn't understand on how to say no to someone, how to speak directly to someone. The speaking directly part, that's the guilt tripping, right? When you guilt trip, you're basically trying to hold that person in you by doing some games on them, by doing some manipulative tricks on them that you're also unconscious of, and it's also not your fault as well for doing that. That's the symptoms, right? And if you keep on doing this, you're basically self-sabotaging yourself. You're forming this false self in yourself that you're growing up with. Now, the false self, it isn't really false. It's more of how you integrate it in your life. Because we're just humans, right? So you basically have a father wound, and that father wound affects on how you treat other people, and that father wound affects your guilt tripping moments, your guilt tripping actions, because you're trying to be a nice guy, because your father basically. Now, every boy, let me start with this, every boy has the question of, do I have what it takes in life? And if it's not answered by an elder or by your father, your biological father, then a boy will end up chasing that question, taking it to external validation. And what are these external validation look like? This is where your shadow or your false self creeps in and actually builds, because you're trying to ask that do I have what it takes question to elsewhere. What does it look like is the one I mentioned previously. When you try to be the nice guy to your partner, to your girl, to the world, when you can't learn to say no, when you can't learn to speak the truth and actually speak what you want. I want X because of Y, not, you know what, because of this I can do this, because of you I can do that. You're like blaming other people so you can keep them safe in you. Now the father wound, like let's say for me, I realized that I have this fear of loss in someone else, especially in my girl, right? Or in with my guy, with the best friend, or with anyone in this world. I learned that because my father passed away, I have that fear of, if I don't do something to this person, then I will lose him or I will lose her. So I have to do X to get her back, or I have to do Y to get him back in my life. I realize that this is affecting me because I'm scared of real love, of the truth, of me being worth, like me showing my own worth and they accept my own worth. And because I'm scared of refusal or I'm scared of rejection, I don't show my inner self. I don't show the truth that what I really want or what I really need. You know, sometimes people like as myself, it's hard for us to actually say, oh, actually, I want to go out with you today because I miss you. I want to just stay at home because I'm really tired right now and I need some emotional, I don't know, care, right? I'd say it shows up in daily lives with your family, if you have a wife or if you have a girlfriend. It shows up more in your partner because you're trying to find something in that partner. That's why the title of this video is the real reason you guilt trip to your loved ones, because maybe it doesn't really come out that much into your not loved ones. It does more to your loved ones because you're trying to keep them within your area, within your circumference. You're trying to keep them in your heart. So you're trying to do something out of them. But if they break out, if they do something quote unquote bad to you, you turn passive, not active. Or you can also turn active, but you turn passive. You become this person that plays games or blames them to get them back into a normal state, into a loving state, or into the state that you really want. So you have to learn from this. Now, the third thing I want to say is that you are stuck in your mother's world. Now, both physically and emotionally. Because your father passed away, of course, you don't have a father in your life, or he's emotionally absent. You don't have a father with him, right? Sorry, not father with him. You don't have the your father is not present in your life. So that means you're stuck in a mother's world. And well, this go by saying, talking about that, actually a lot of mothers are trying their hardest to keep their son masculine, because it depends on the mother. Sometimes mothers actually are conscious that his son needs someone that he can look up to in the house, right? In the household, to keep him masculine. But some mothers actually don't care or don't know about this masculine energy, or about this femininity that's overwhelming the boy's heart, the boy's environment, the boy's psyche, his soul. Now, what I mean by stuck in the mother's world, yes, it can go physically and also emotionally. Physically meaning that your father isn't there anymore, so you don't actually physically have someone to look up to. Or it can be emotionally, that you don't want to step into discomfort. You don't want to go into the unknown in order to see what you're capable of, right? In order to become the young man that you truly wanted to be. Now you're stuck in this comfort love. Returning back and looking back to what I said before, you're scared of rejection. You're scared of refusal to whoever you're trying to talk to, whoever you're trying to argue, or whoever you're trying to build a long-lasting relationship with. You're scared of that. So you turn passive, right? You turn passive. You turn into this nice guy. You turn into the guy that can't say no. Or you might be active. Now that's also the limiting belief that I want to tell you, is that you don't want to become the nice guy, but you also don't want to become the bad guy, right? If you think about it, okay, you're telling me all this not to become the nice guy, so do I have to be the bad guy? Well, of course no, right? You don't want to turn into the bad guy and just become manipulative through active shadow. Now the passive one is like more of like you're playing games with the person, but if it's active, it's more like you become more aggressive to them. You tell them, no, but I want this, but I don't want you to do this because I want this. I control the whole thing. I do this You use power. This can also be affected by a father wound, which yourself needs to unfold. What was your story back then, right? And this can goes on and on and on. I can talk about the bad guy and the nice guy, go on and on, but for the sake of keeping this video short, I'm not going to do that, and I'm going to do that in another video. So don't become the bad guy. You're going to have resistance, and you're going to have pushbacks whenever you're trying to speak the truth or speak what you really want and what you really need, so that you're not going to guilt trip your loved ones, your partner, your wife. And that resistance is okay. That argument, well, we don't want to turn it into an argument, but if we have to make that argument mature, right? You want to speak to your partner like a mature man. You don't want to just like lash out everything, become passive. You say, oh yeah, men are bad, right? Or you don't want to go control. You don't want to be active. You do this because I don't like you doing that. Don't ever do that again because I don't like it. I want this to be the way I want to be, right? You understand what I'm talking about. You don't want it to be like that. You want it to keep it mature because it's not actually about the outcome, right? It's not about the outcome. It's about your confrontation. Your confrontation. It's about how you handle it, how you confront your truth to the person, to speak what you need to the person, right? And so I want to talk about the analogy of a boy in a fantasy world. This is what I preach. I literally have a sword in me myself. I just like those knight and sword stuff. A boy stuck serving the mother and helping the mother, not going into the battles to fight the dragons while other men are. And so the king died, which is his father, and the mom asked him to go fight, but he feels, but he rejects it. He's like, Mom, like I told you, right? I should have gone there, but because of you, I cannot fight the dragons now, and other men are doing it, right? That's guilt tripping the mother, and also the mother is also, you're trying to find the mother. The mother is basically the partner that you're with, or the wife, right? The feminine figure that you communicate with, that you interact with, that you have a relationship with. So that's the analogy that I want to talk about, and how I love these like swords and medieval stuff. This is just my passion. I have like a sword, and I have, if you can see the back, I have like a knife, like a wooden knife and a wooden sword. I love it so much. And so how do we actually fix this, right? First, you want to name and acknowledge the wound. You want to see where your father affects you in this. You want to ask yourself, okay, what was my father like, and how did he affected me today, right? And how do I go on with that, right? Secondly, you want to identify the occurrence. Where does the guilt tripping moments wake up in your life? Where does those moments actually appear in your lives? Was it when you are speaking to your mother, when you're speaking to your friends, when you're speaking to your girlfriend? Where does it actually appear? Now I have to pray in a bit, but I'm just gonna try to go faster with this. Every time it comes up to you, you have to become conscious of yourself, because that guilt tripping moment or that action is actually coming from the boy inside you. The boy inside you that wants to just lash out and do stuff because he's emotional. He's the divine child, right? He doesn't understand what being a father or what being mature means. So you have to father yourself. You have to be mature and say to yourself, son, or well, the boy inside you, Say to him that, okay, I understand what you feel. And then you think to yourself, okay, what should a healthy version of you say? What should a mature man say to the other person? Don't just follow what the boy inside you wants. You want to mature the boy inside you. You want to integrate the boy inside you. Now, fourth thing, you want to let God father you. You want to go into the unknown with God. You want to have the bravery to actually speak the truth and speak what you really have to say. Speak what you really want and need with God. You want to trust him on this process of doing it. You want to ask him, show me what real love is like. You just want to talk to him, right? That's what you really want. I'm going to make another video on this, but this is just like brief steps. Now, the lastly is actually the most obvious one, which is asking directly what you want. Your worth as a man, it isn't tied with the response that someone gives to you. Then you have values to give, right? You have values that you built until right now. If you don't have values, well, but you want to actually speak directly to the person. Now, this takes bravery and letting God father you, which means going to the unknown with God and just trusting him in the process of speaking truth, speaking life, and speaking what you really need. Because your worth doesn't come from the world. It doesn't come from what people respond to you. It comes from yourself, and it comes from God. I'm going to end it off here, and I'm going to see you in the next video. Goodbye.